Hey there, and welcome to the Outdoor Quest TV Zoomcast. And you'll notice we got a few more screens filled than we normally do. We've got the good folks from Hornady. We've got Neil Davies and Steve Catlett. And then we've got Adam Patterson from the Korth Group right here in Canada. So we're going to be talking kind of all things Hornady today, a little bit some of the challenges, I guess, of getting ammo across the border, how these guys masterfully do it. But let's start with you, Neil, because I think everyone thinks of Hornady as this great big faceless corporation, and you guys are pretty much still just a family operation, aren't you?
Yeah, we definitely are. This is we got now the third generation of the Hornady family that works here. My direct boss is Jason Hornady. So Steve is still the president and CEO of the company, and that's pretty much constitutes the board right there. So as long as those folks are all happy with what we got going on, then everything, there's veto authority right there. So no, we are certainly not faceless. We are very happy to have family ownership and really great people that do own and run the company, quite frankly.
Well, I think it was cool, some of the videos you guys did kind of early on in the COVID stuff. I mean, you could tell that Steve was having a lot of fun with that, and it's great when you can make fun of the boss, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and he's okay with making fun of himself, which is really nice. But I mean, again, that shows that we're just humans here, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. We like what we do. We have fun. We love to make good products for people that are just like us, quite frankly.
And you guys are still in basically a small town in Nebraska. And I know when this whole COVID thing started, your hospital needed supplies and things like that. And you guys were just right Johnny on the spot to make it happen.
Yeah, the company, we had some folks here that worked on a few projects that did help the local community out. We made some adapters for ventilators with our 3D printing machine. So that was something that some of our engineers just took on and did. A couple more things that were done. Steve and Jason basically just bought gift cards. So once we started making an adaptation to our schedule here, and obviously knew that the first responders out there within the community were also in need of assistance and maybe a sign of appreciation, they went out and bought gift cards to local restaurants. So that was twofold right there. So we supported local businesses that were all locally owned, not chains that were nationally owned, obviously. So we bought gift cards from them for food and that, and gave it to first responders throughout the community, and then also to the employees once a week. So obviously that went, two, threefold over, helped those people that needed a break, and then also provided business for some of these local folks.
That's cool. So Steve, you're the international sales manager. So you're
Yes,
kind
sir.
of the guy who makes all the magic happen for us to get Hornady ammo up in here through Adam at Korth Group. Maybe just kind of, I guess right now you're probably one of the few companies that's busier than ever, which is good news through this whole COVID crisis. But maybe walk us through a little bit of how all that happens.
Well, I think the one thing that we do differently than most other companies do, that we don't treat our international customers any different than our domestic customers. So when we have product come available, depending on when that order is placed in the system, we pull by date usually. So Korth Group does a great job at putting orders in so they have stock available for the consumers in Canada. And as that comes available, we pull and then hold the product until we get truckload quantities and then ship up there. So we don't do anything differently when we're pulling for customers or differentiate from international from domestic customers, which allows us to continue to supply our international customers the same as domestic.
Well, I've been shocked, walking into a few of the local gun shops here, and their shelves are empty of most brands of ammunition right now, but there's lots of Hornady on the shelf. And Adam, maybe you can address a little bit about how that happens.
So we place very regular orders with Hornady, and then as Steve mentioned, they ship regularly from Hornady. So we've been able to maintain a healthy inventory throughout this whole COVID process, which really hasn't changed any amount since prior to COVID and how we've managed our inventory.
Well, you guys really haven't seen any shortages or anything like that, have you?
No, sales have definitely increased. And lots of people think that's due to pandemic buying, but in our experience, it's generally supply chain concerns. Usually when the U.S. market is on an upswing, that generally indicates that, as Steve mentioned, other vendors may not ship to Canada as frequently as they would when the U.S. market is stable. So we see an increase from consumers wanting product just due to concerns they might not get what they need. And that's been reloading components, target ammo, hunting ammo, defense-oriented ammo. But fortunately, we've had healthy inventory and have been able to weather the storm.
Yeah, well, I've been amazed. Just, so you say, walking into the gun shops, you can get pretty much everything you need. Now, I'm sure, as you guys know, down in the U.S., we're facing some gun issues up here in Canada right now with our lovely Liberal government. But I guess the one thing I want to say on that is, I mean, I think probably looking from the south to the north, you're wondering, like, what the heck's going on in Canada? But we're fighting this hard. I think we've got 6 lawsuits going right now. We are fighting. We don't have that advantage of having a Second Amendment like you guys. Our rights to gun ownership aren't protected to the degree yours are. But we do have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms that does give us a lot of protection. And that's what a lot of our lawsuits are being based on right now. And, we're still shooting, we're still hunting, we're still doing a lot of that up here. And I guess I just want people to know that we aren't rolling over, that's for sure.
Yeah, good to hear, obviously, because it's been, from down here, obviously we feel for you guys. We understand what you're going through. There's plenty of that happens, even now with the Trump administration, but at the state level. So there's certainly a lot of that takes place here, but not maybe at the federal level right now. But certain states are dealing with similar things, obviously.
So let's talk about some of the innovative stuff from Hornady. And I think probably one of my pets is the 6.5 Creedmoor, because it is the cartridge that people love to hate. And I know, Neil, you've been in on a few of the Facebook conversations I've been in on the Creedmoor, and I just kind of laugh about it. But you guys have been real developers. I mean, we've had the Creedmoor, we've had the line of PRC cartridges. How does that all happen?
Well, the 6.5 Creedmoor happened based on just a casual conversation. We were at Camp Perry, and we were chatting with Dennis DeMille at the time. So Dennis was, he just retired from the Marine Corps, and he was, he was an across the course shooter. So he's shooting at the 200, 300, and then 600 yard line. So he competed in the NRA competition and then in the CMP competitions. Obviously the 6.5 Creedmoor, not really for the CMP side of it, but more for the NRA side. And he described what he thought would be, performance-wise, the ideal across the course cartridge for national matches. He didn't necessarily specify a cartridge diameter, bullet diameter, and powder or any of that stuff, but something in the 6.5 bullet category, easy to reload, easy to replicate that load. And when we first did the 6.5 Creedmoor, that's something we don't do anymore, kind of fell by the wayside, but we did put the recommended load data right on the label so that you could, so the hand loader could replicate that. So from that conversation, Dave Emery and Joe Thielen came back to the factory, and I was a fly on the wall during that conversation at Camp Perry. It's kind of fun now to look back at and say that I was there, but so they came back and said about looking at what they had for cartridge cases and things like that, and we just done the 30 TC, which is based off the 307 Winchester. So also the 308 Marlin is all based off of that cartridge case. And so then they necked it to 6.5 and did some powder selection, and basically skunk works, so nobody here knew about it, but the three of us really is kind of how that went. So now it was time to go and try to pitch it to the bosses. So I went to Jason and asked him, hey, we've got this cartridge these guys have been working on, kind of a black op deal. And that's how some things came to be back in the day. Doesn't quite happen like that anymore. But so, and he said, well, I like it. Why don't you go ask Dad? So I thought, all right, fine. But the one requirement that I'm sure there'll have to be one of these T's crossed and I's dotted is it'd be really beneficial for this conversation if we had somebody that would chamber this thing. So they were going to do the Tub 2000 rifles, which Dennis DeMille kind of had some influence over. But I called my buddy Dustin Emholtz at DPMS back then and asked him, hey, we got this cartridge coming out. Would you be interested in chambering it? And Dustin and I are really good friends, so he just immediately, yes, no problem, we'll do it. So it's great. All right, I'm armed with a gun maker, so I can now go have this conversation. So Dave Emery and I went down to Steve's office and told him about this cartridge and what these guys developed. I didn't have anything to do with that. They're geniuses in that regard. And Steve took a look at it, and he came back to us, and usually doesn't say yes on the first ask, so because he wants you to prove it. Well, he never said no, he just said okay. So from that, we just went forward and we put it in the catalog, and those guys, made the 120 grain AMAX and then the 148 AMAX load, and 10 years later, it was an overnight success.
Well, and I mean, if you could somehow can that marketing that made the 6.5 Creedmoor such a success, you could use it on every cartridge in the world, but it just took off, didn't it? And all of a sudden, you went from one rifle manufacturer chambering it to virtually every rifle manufacturer chambering it.
Yeah, it was, it's kind of lightning in a bottle. Now, like I said, it didn't just, it didn't come out of the gate strong. We had, so DPMS chambered it, and then Steve Johnson worked here at the time, and he had some influence with some of the folks at Ruger, and we always have done a lot of things with Ruger. And Ruger was another major manufacturer that chambered it very early on. And then Thompson Center, because Jason Hornady had some great ties with some of the folks at Thompson Center back then. And so that's how we came out of the gate. And then, the precision shooting market really started to escalate. And as that arena started to become more and more popular, people gravitated to the 6.5 Creedmoor. And like I said, it was the overnight success that took 10 years, because it really, it wasn't just an immediate success. It had a big, venerable grandfather in there, the 308 Winchester, that it had the best. And it took a little while for that to happen. Now, like you said, there's plenty of people that like to hate the 6.5 Creedmoor, and hey, to each his own. There's a lot of cartridges out there, and not everybody likes them all, but that's fine. I can attest to the fact that there are lots of people that do like the 6.5 Creedmoor, as evidenced by the amount of ammo we sell.
Well, and I mean, it was the #1 selling cartridge in the world for a few years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty hot. It was very hot, and still is, quite frankly. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, and it's still, I love that cartridge. I mean, I'm not under any illusions of what it can and can't do, but I mean, for just a solid mid-range, low recoil, lightweight rifle cartridge, it's still one of my favorites. I mean, it's the one I pack in the mountains all the time for sheep still. And there's a lot of reasons
versatile.
for that.
It does a lot of things well. That's really it's that's its call. It does a lot of things really well.
Yeah. And imagine, Adam, you see similar sales up here with the 6.5 Creedmoor ammo?
Absolutely. Hugely popular in the target shooting community as well as the hunting community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the PRC cartridges now. I mean, they're kind of ones that are probably a lot more successful, a lot faster than the Creedmoor was, and probably built on that success from the Creedmoor, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we developed some credibility because of some of the other cartridges that we developed, and some of the industry folks were certainly willing to hear us out when we had a new product for them to chamber. This one was originally thought up by George Gardner at GA Precision Rifles. So he came to us in 2012, and that was a period of time when demand was also extremely high. And he wanted he was a board member, or maybe even an owner at that point in time, of the Precision Rifle series, just, good friend of the company. And he wanted something that would shoot those 6.5 bullets. There's a velocity limit. I think it's 3,200 feet per second for the Precision Rifle series. 30 caliber and below, no faster than 3,200 feet per second, if I remember correctly. So this cartridge that he had, put together, thought of, would work well for that application. He came to us, wanted to build it off of our 300 RCM case, which we had done several years before. It's the Ruger Compact Magnum with Ruger. I think in about 2008 or something like that was when we developed that one. Unfortunately, at the time, we couldn't make OEM cartridge cases for him because business was through the roof. There was, events had taken place in the United States, and there was a huge buying spree going on. So he had to go and source some other cartridge case, and he built another cartridge, but all along came back and wanted us to get this done. So we finally settled on a design. Again, Joe Thielen, great guy, engineer, assistant director of engineering, very talented when it comes to developing these cartridge cases, and then subsequently propellant development and all that stuff, and came and settled upon the design. Now, it wasn't an easy one to market to folks because it's kind of an intermediate length cartridge. It's not doesn't fit in a short action, and it's not necessarily a pure long action cartridge either. So I think its OAL is 2.955, I think, if memory serves me correctly. So it's not 2.7, so it's not fitting in a standard Remington short action box. So you got to have an intermediate. But a lot of other companies like Savage and some of those folks had 3-inch magazine, so it fit fine in some of those. But we kind of challenged the industry with, look, we're going to build something that has a lot of performance. We ask that you now build something that will support that cartridge, and that's what happened, and a lot of people did, and that one was an overnight success. We had great sales figures with that, and people gravitated to it because there was a lot of success with the 6.5 Creedmoor, and now you basically get another 200 feet per second out of a 6.5, and it went over really well.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. We work with Sacco rifles, and I mean, phenomenal rifles, but typically chambered in a lot more pedestrian chamberings than most rifles are. But they were not super quick to get on with the 6.5 Creedmoor, but they sure have, and it's selling really well. But the thing that shocked me is in their new S20 rifle, they came out with the 6.5 PRC in it right away. So
that's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I've just got one on order, as a matter of fact. So, but I think that spoke volumes to what you guys are doing. Everybody, you hear it a lot, like, how many more new cartridges do we need? How many more new cartridges do we need? But I mean, it keeps the industry exciting. Yeah, we could probably all hunt with a 30-06 and do just fine. But I don't know, to me, it keeps the industry exciting. It keeps it fresh. It keeps it going. And to me, that's what's exciting. I get as excited as a kid on Christmas morning when a new rifle shows up, start working with different loads on it, seeing how it shoots. And, I'm super pumped to get this new PRC because it's new.
Well, I mean, we're enthusiasts here. So, I mean, when we come up with these cartridges, we have a great group of passionate people that help to come up with these ideas. And again, some of it is skunk work, some of it's just personally what they would like to have, and then that manifests into a commercial success sometimes. So, and the other thing that's taken place is now there's modern, long, heavy for caliber bullets, and a lot of the older cartridge designs didn't accommodate for that. So, a 300 Win Mag. Well, there's now, again, longer, sleeker bullets that 300 Win Mag, just because of its chamber design, can't take advantage of very well. So hence the development of the 300 PRC, which was another cartridge. Now, the 300 PRC, the 6.5 PRC, both based off of the 375 Ruger's parent case, which again, we go back, that's the 300 RCM as well. So all based off of the 375 Ruger cartridge case, which has been also very successful for us. But again, all these come out of, some specialized, development products or projects that some guys do a lot of times just out of their personal passion.
Well, and I've always found it interesting with Hornady. You guys are almost a little slow to come to the ball, but man, when you're there, you dance. And, we saw that, like, there's been a lot of new cartridges come out that have had very short lifespans. I mean, most of the short mags have gone away, maybe other than the 270. There's been a lot of cartridges come and go, and you guys didn't really get into that game until a little bit later. But man, your cartridges have had the legs. Same when you brought out a mono-metal bullet. You were late to that game, but man, you did it right. And again, in the long range,
that was a fun project too. Yeah, and the GMX is a great bullet. I mean, and it serves the needs of a lot of people that want that type of bullet construction. We're advocates of lead core bullets. They're great. They are fantastic. Have done a phenomenal job for years and years, and work extremely well. But there's a lot of people that want to have a mono-metal bullet, and unfortunately for some people, they're forced to use a mono-metal bullet because of the laws in their area. So we want to make sure that we provide a product for them. So we do have the GMX. We have a monoflex for some of the lever guns and some of the handguns, and then a new handgun hunter line, which also features a copper alloy mono-metal bullet, and then the NTX, which is a non-traditional cord bullet for varmint shooting.
Well, and I mean, I've long been a fan of the GMX, as you know, and not because it's not got lead in it, just because it works. And
you want penetration, it's going to give you 3+ feet of penetration generally.
Yeah.
And it retains weight, just beyond compare, quite frankly.
Oh, and I love it. And I love that 6-pedal design. I find the expansion a little more reliable, a little more damage with it. And the great thing is, I mean, if you shoot an SST, you can pretty much switch between it and the GMX without ever having to re-zero, which is so. Yeah. We took a 7.8 to Africa last year, which, a lot of people consider a fairly small plains game rifle for some of the bigger plains game there. And, we shoot SSTs all the time in that 7.8 here for deer and things like that. Popped those GMX in it, never had to switch our point of impact at all. And I mean, those guys were so impressed over there with that cartridge nut bullet. It was just mind boggling.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell folks, if you're going to anywhere in Africa, and a lot of times, as people from North America, we typically want this bench rest, perfectly broadside shot. Well, over there, that's not necessarily the presentation that you'll get. So you need a bullet that you can fish up from behind the ribs up into the vitals, and the GMX will do that because you get great amounts of penetration. But there's a limitation too. You have to make sure that you don't have an animal behind what you're shooting at, because you do have the potential for that bullet going through and impacting another animal. That's where the SST shines, because it's going to shed a lot of weight and work great for a big herd of animals or something like that. So,
well, I think that's, people don't always understand, how specialized bullets have become. I mean, it's not that they don't serve a wide variety of purposes, but you can really specialize for them. And, the GMX isn't a great long range bullet because it needs higher impact velocities. But let's talk about your long range bullet. I mean, the ELDX, again, you were a little bit late to the game with a long range bullet, but man, when you did it, it was as good a long-range bullet as I've ever shot. Quite honestly, it is the most accurate long-range bullet I've ever shot in my life, and it shoots out of virtually every rifle.
Yeah, I mean, that one also came out of seeing some of the stuff that was taking place and the trends in the industry, and this is another conversation that we don't need to have, but the long or extended range hunting shots that are taking place. Well, okay, so I don't want to get into the semantics because, quite frankly, it's a subjective conversation. And I suppose that 200 years ago, 100 yards was very far. So, things have probably changed, but it's subjective, and your capabilities are maybe different than my capabilities, etc. So, but long story short, there are people that were using basically match bullets for hunting purposes, and we didn't think that was the way to go. We've shot a lot of bullets into ballistic gelatin, and typically the way a bowtail hollow point bullet works is it goes into the media, gelatin or an animal, and depending on how well the bullet is stabilized, it'll penetrate for 2 inches, 6 inches, a foot, who knows. And then at some point in time, gravity takes over and the base of the bullet starts to go down, and then that's how the bullet yaws, and that's the wounding effect. Or the bullet will break apart and cause 2 separate wound channels. I mean, that's typically how a bowtail hollow point works. But that initial penetration, where it's basically just a pencil, it's just the diameter of the bullet giving you a permanent cavity. Sometimes it's as deep as the entire animal's width. So that's a concern, because you don't have reliable expansion that you can count on every single time. And that's what we provided when we did the ELDX bullet. We want you to have a bullet that will expand, retain weight, not blow up at higher velocities, yet still expand at lower velocities, at extended ranges. And that's what again, Joe Thielen, Dave Emery, Jaden Quinlan, our ballistic development group set about to design and bring to market. And it had to be match accurate. So now that's a tall order.
Yeah, no kidding.
But that's what we had to do in order to provide a bullet that would work well for those circumstances. And again, ethics and all those things, that's a totally separate conversation. And we're not going to tell you, we'll tell you where this bullet works at these velocities, and then you determine what's best for you. And for some people, it's still 100 yards, and for some people, it's 4 or 5. And, our take on all that, the ethical part of that is, if you can get closer, you should.
Yeah. I know when I first started shooting long range, and I mean, I do a lot of long range shooting. I don't do a lot of long range hunting, but I'm well equipped when I do it. And I think, that's the key to the ethics for me, is me being well practiced and my equipment being as good as I can get for doing that long range shooting. And that's where the ELDX definitely fits into that equation. But when I first started long range shooting, it was pretty much a handler's game. There just wasn't the consistency in ammo. You just could never get that accuracy. And I don't know, maybe you could talk to the precision hunter ammo a little bit, Steve. It must be really popular now, because it is without a question the most accurate hunting ammo, factory ammo that I've ever shot, and every rifle seems to like it.
Yeah, and it's designed for that long distance hunting. And I can talk with Adam a little bit too. In Canada, you've got different terrains that you deal with. On the eastern side, you don't have those long range hunting shots where you do out in Western Canada. So you get a wide variety of ammunition needs all the way across Canada. But the Precision Hunter ammunition has done really, really well. The ELDX bullet, when they designed it and they did it, we made it so it'll expand at the high and low velocities. So as Neil mentioned, we want to have that performance out of the bullet, where we have that consistent terminal performance of that. So it is, designed for hunting. But it's done very well all over the world, in Europe and Canada, the United States, Australia. It's done well for us.
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely changed the game for guys that don't hand load. And now we can start getting that precision that hand loaders get, but just going to the store and buying a box of ammo. Adam, do you see a real difference regionally in Canada, what guys are shooting for ammunition?
There is, as Steve mentioned, there is a slightly higher percentage of people using the long range geared hunting ammo in Western Canada because we have the space, we have the mountains, we have the terrain to do that. That said, we are fairly consistent across the board nationally with demand for precision hunter ammo in all calibers. Something that we have noticed a bit of a trend recently in the PRS groups here in Alberta, guys that want to run the 143 LDX and their 6.5 Creedmoors in matches and hunting because they're using the rifle for a dual role. And this will alleviate having to re-zero or change their load. They just simply run match hunting ammo year round, and then whether they're at a competition or they're out in the field looking for game, they're using the same bullet. Okay. And I think it's a lot to the match capability of that hunting bullet.
Yeah, for sure. I just like to think it's because we're way better shots out here in the West, but
it's certainly a possibility.
So I guess kind of with all these new gun law changes and things that are kind of in the works right now, Adam, where do you see the ammunition industry going? Is it really going to affect you guys hard?
Initially, yes. We're fairly confident that clearer minds will prevail and this OIC will be redacted or removed completely. Time will tell on that. Fortunately, right now, the biggest impact will be on the AR market. The 10,000 joule regulation that came out is fairly limited. And it's oh, absolutely. But there aren't that many folks shooting 460 Weatherbees and bigger. Right. The biggest impact for us is going to be on the AR market for ammo.
Right, that 223 kind of stuff. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do about it, but like you said, there is lots going on here. And we're definitely not rolling over on this one. So I hear there may be some new stuff coming from Hornady in the near future.
Yeah, we just sent out a little teaser, basically a call to action today that we will be doing a new product launch on June 3rd. I don't want to spoil the fun, so
that's all you're going to tell us, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Because we want everybody to have fun when they see it. Everybody's been cooped up. It's been hectic couple of months for the entire world, and to be honest, this was something that we were going to do back in at the NRA show, but NRA show didn't occur because of COVID, so we didn't want to do it while everybody was still, really concerned about going out and about. So we feel that, the first part of June, starting to be summer, be a great time. People are getting out of their caves here soon. So I think something new like this will be welcome. So hopefully everybody has fun when they see it.
Well, and that's one of the things I really got to commend Hornady about, because you guys do have a lot of fun with stuff, and your April Fool's posts are the absolute best. I mean, like this, the 6.2 Creedmoor, or the 7.62 Creedmoor was like absolute genius. The bullet cam,
I wish we could take all the credit for the bullet cam one, but that was actually a Vortex initiative. They wanted us to participate, but boy, everybody forgets that it was a Vortex video, so we got all the credit for it. But hey, we got some great friends out there and we get by with a lot of help from them. I'll tell you that. But that was great, yeah. And it's funny, so like millions of people watched the bullet cam video, millions, but only about 100,000 watched the video where it was revealed that this isn't real. It's not. It's fake news, right? So I mean, even today, you still have people that, hey man, when you guys gonna have that bullet cam? It's like, so yeah, we'll have it on December 32nd. Yes, that's when we first start shipping.
Well, I mean, I think that 762 Creedmoor too, like the haters just wanted to hate it so badly. They believed it right from the beginning. And I mean, if you read it all and knew anything about it, you were talking about a 308 at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man, I can't believe it. Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I mean, and that's the personality from the top to the bottom here, Again, we don't take ourselves very seriously, and we like to do what we do, and we make fun things that we would like to shoot, and then turns out other people do too. I mean, that's there's no secret sauce.
Well, and that's the cool thing. Like, I know us at Outdoor Quest TV, like we really enjoy working with companies like Hornady, with Korth. You can actually talk to the people in charge. You got a good sense of humor. You can just phone up and just shoot the crap sometimes if you want. And I don't think you get that with a lot of companies. And I think that's why you guys are always on the cutting edge of development too, is because you do have that relationship with your bosses. Like, how many people can go to their boss and say, "Hey, we want to do this new cartridge"?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen everywhere, and a lot of that gets shot down by committee, and and then and fortunately for us, they're enthusiasts, and they've been in this business. Steve was born in 1949. That's the same year that the company was founded. So his entire life, he's been around this business, and he's a passionate shooter, hunted all over the world, and likes this stuff, as does Jason. And pretty much the entire executive group is the same way. And yeah, I mean, we obviously do some things well. I mean, then but again, we don't take ourselves seriously. We have some great minds here that have done things like adopt Doppler radar into our processes. I mean, we were the first major manufacturing company that did that in our industry, and from that came a lot of developments. And it's just, again, because guys were looking at numbers, decided they wanted something better, and set about to make it.
Those are the cool stories. I mean, I love hearing those stories. And so, obviously you guys started with the bullet side, grew into the ammunition side at some point, but the one thing I think that often gets overlooked in there is like the reloading side. And you guys make some of the greatest reloading tools there are.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah. I mean, bullets was where it started. 1949, Joyce started in a rented garage on 4th Street right here in Grand Island, and still see the old auto body shop that once was there, and then the Hornady facility, and now I think it's part of a printing company. Then we moved out here in 58 onto what was the western edge of town, which has now been absorbed by the community. Started loading ammunition in 1964, and what they did then was it was remanufactured brass. It was all Lake City brass, actually. Frontier Ammo is what it was called. Now something old is new again. So we did do a new venture with Lake City, who's loading our bullets, and then we sell ammunition in the Frontier brand. But and then in 1972 is when we bought Pacific Reloading Tools. And Steve, right before that, was actually out running a big ranch that their family owned, and then he came back here and started to manage the tool company. That was his first job when he came back to Grand Island, and that's grown immeasurably as well. I mean, it's vertical integration, whatever business school term you'd like to apply, but we've got bullets, we've got ammunition, we've got reloading tools, and we service all levels of the shooting sports in that regard. If you want to hand load, you can definitely tweak stuff and get the best out of your gun. Or you can look at it as, providing yourself about a 40% savings if you can recoup the cost from your brass. So there's lots of advantages to reloading. And, with the current status of, emphasis on precision shooting, long range stuff, whether it's for, matches or just plinking or what have you, people have gravitated to reloading. Also, unfortunately, during this COVID period, people have gravitated to reloading as well, just because of they'll call it a shortage. It's not a shortage, because I guarantee you we're making as much as we possibly can. It's all being bought. So there's the shortage is just due to crazy demand. But anyway, so people have gravitated to reloading, and we'll take it. And here in the States, I don't know what the numbers are like in Canada, but we've had record growth of gun ownership. And we welcome all those new gun owners into our midst. There are people that maybe in the past didn't ever think they would own a gun, but once they realized that their security was up to themselves, their mentality changed. And so there's a bunch of folks out there that are new, and I think it's up to all of us that have been part of this culture for a long time to, bring them into the fold and help them out,
Well, and I think reloading too has really got popular recently just because people are home bored. And it's just a
True.
great time to tinker. Like for Vanessa and I, date night is reloading. And, thankfully that's her idea, not even mine. So it's,
That's great.
oh, but it makes for a lot of fun. It's something we can do together. And, you get to see the results and have some fun with it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We really have a good
And
time.
it's something, when you shoot an animal with one of your own reloads that you spent a lot of time trying to develop, that's a very satisfying feeling.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we first went to Africa, and that's when you guys had first came out with the 375 GMX bullet, and you weren't loading it at that time. You didn't even have load data for it when you first came out with it. And, so that was Vanessa's job one. Like we were headed to Africa. She wanted to shoot a lion and she wanted to shoot it with that bullet. So, we kind of played around with loads and, the amount of pride, you're right. She got from doing that. And it was kind of cool working it right up from almost nothing, because I say there wasn't even load data available at that point.
Yeah, they've been a great bullet for us. I think we did those in about 2009. And yeah, they do a lot of things really well. Their only limitation is really at that extended range shooting. So, if folks are into that type of thing, this is, we kind of consider conventional range is about 400 and in, and the GMX does a fantastic job at that, which is as far as most people are ever going to shoot.
Should be shooting for sure.
Yeah.
So before I let you guys go, I guess, what's your thoughts, maybe starting with you, Steve, kind of where this industry's headed in the next, 5-10 years?
That's a good question. For the international market, we're striving to do the best that we can as far as shipping. We want to, differentiate ourselves from a U.S. manufacturer or a U.S. company that supplies international customers. A lot of the feelings out there for international customers is that U.S. companies take care of U.S. customers only, and then international is second. We don't do that. We do our best to treat our international customers the same as our domestic customers, so they can get the product to sell to the international consumers. So on the international side, I think we're going to continue to grow. We're making more of a presence. Neil and his group on the marketing side are doing more and more marketing internationally, and just making our presence known, that we are out there and we're here to stay, and we're going to do the best that we can, so hopefully with new designs, new items and stuff like that'll help that.
Well, and let me tell you a quick story, Steve, about how successful you are at international sales. We were just in England in January hunting muntjac and Chinese water deer, and getting our own rifles into England was really going to be a hassle. So we decided we would use the outfitter's rifle, and he was shooting a 243. First thing that comes out of his truck is a box of Superformance ammo, shooting SSTs in. And I think that really speaks to it when a place like England, your product is so available. We had, last time we went to Africa, we had one of our bags get lost and our ammunition was delayed a couple of days, and, go down to the local shop and, there's Superformance 7.8 ammunition right there. So you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And, Hornady ammo is becoming so well known worldwide. So, a tip of our hat to you for, like you say, getting that product out there. You're doing a great job.
Oh, we appreciate that.
And you, Adam, where do you think things are going to go here?
Well, it's a bit of a loaded question in Canada at the moment, but as I said earlier, we're confident that things are going to turn out in a positive manner. We're fortunate that we've partnered with a solid company like Hornady. We'll ensure that the Canadian market's always looked after as far as product needs and current trends and what people want to actually get out there and use.
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of local retailers all the time, and everybody always talks about what great service they get from Korth, and I think that speaks volume. You guys, and I'm not just saying that, like, you guys do really work at your at servicing your dealers.
Well, we certainly try to, and much like Hornady, our team are all enthusiasts and users, so we're out there shooting matches and out there hunting and participating right along with the consumer and the dealers. So,
well, and that's the cool thing, like you guys, I know, like Troy, when he first started with you guys, he didn't have any hunting experience at all, but he was right in there too. And I think that's a really important part of, what Terry and Donna have really tried to foster within the Korth group.
Yeah, we have about half a dozen people that had never hunted prior to working at Korth and are all now avid hunters and traveling for hunts and heavily involved.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And again, you guys are just one of those companies, like, you know, when I'm coming through town, you can stop in for coffee, visit with you guys, you know, talk right with the owner. It's pretty cool. We love that kind of relationship with companies, and, you know, we never want that to change. I'll leave it with you, Neil. Where do you see?
You know, I mean, quite frankly, we love all of you guys in Canada, all our brothers and sisters up there, and I think everybody knows that. You know, we're two nations separated by a parallel and a common language, right? You say again and we say again, right? But I mean, we all love to go to Canada. We, you know, hunted up there, fished up there. I actually lived there for 6 months in Espanola, Ontario. So yeah, I mean, we love you guys, and you know, we're brothers from another mother. You know, we all have the same desires and goals, and you know, we hunt very many of the similar animals, and you know, do plenty of match shooting, and yeah, we wish you guys luck with all this political turmoil that's going on with your prime minister and some of the orders that were put forth. We hope you can overcome all that, but you know, we're still going to keep doing what we do. We're going to create new and innovative products, and with help from, you know, our great folks here like Steve and everybody in the shipping department, and that will continue to keep supplying you folks with all the Hornady ammo and products we can get up there.
That's good. And like I say, don't give up on us, because we haven't rolled over and died by any means. I think if anything, our prime minister has awoken a sleeping giant here.
Yeah,
it's kind of the first time. I mean, you know, they're targeting, you know, most of the, you know, the sport shooting people right now. But I think hunters have finally woke up to the fact that we're all one united group here in Canada. And, you know, there might only be 100,000 shooters affected by this order in council, but there's 2.2 million of us that are pissed off. And I don't think they ever expected that. And if that's what it took to wake our community up, bring it on, is what I say. Bring it on. We're ready. We're ready to fight this in court. We're raising lots of money. We're doing good things. And regardless of what happens, we still got lots of shooting opportunity, lots of hunting opportunity, and you know, that's not going away anytime soon. So I want to thank everybody. You guys are always all a pleasure to talk to. It's better in person. Hopefully when this COVID thing's all over, we can get together again. But for now, we'll do what we can do on Zoom, and be safe, everyone. And thanks again.
thank you.
Thanks,
TJ.
Thank you, guys.